What's going on, everyone? So, according to Beyond the Mask, he has heard that Mark Kincaid will allegedly not have a big role in Scream 7. His role will be a stay-at-home dad. There will be an announcement for Scream 7 next month in September. Again, this is Beyond the Mask. So, Mark Kincaid is expected to be in the upcoming Scream 7. Again, whenever you're talking about these types of rumors and just information, always take everything with a grain of salt. Obviously, Beyond the Mask is been around forever. They're plugged in, but still, you never really know what is official and what is not until it actually is official. But I find this very interesting, right? Because, I mean, Scream has been trying to get Mark Kincaid back for a while now, right? Pretty much every film since Scream 3, they've tried to get Patrick Dempsey to return and reprise the role as Mark Kincaid. Now you have him, and you're going to have him in a limited role, which I think is very interesting. Now, something that I've talked about that just, again, based on the information we're getting, take it with a grain of salt. Again, want to clarify that. But based on the information we're getting, I mean, it's sounding more and more likely that Mark Kincaid is going to die. And now, some people look at it and go, no way, they wouldn't do that. Don't put it past them. Right? People didn't think that they would ever actually kill Dewey Riley. Even when we got confirmation, essentially, and, David Arquette was going on like a farewell tour and everything, people were still in denial that that was going to happen. Right? Patrick Dempsey getting and returning to this film might be it. Right? Because here's the thing. If you're going to do a trilogy with Sidney Prescott, and I think this is a big point that a lot of people are not really, I guess, taken into account. If they can't get Patrick Dempsey again, how do you continue that, right? Like, so does Patrick Dempsey just keep letting Sidney go after Ghostface by his chill? Like, at some point, you either have to kill him, or it gets a little weird where it's like what kind of husband just lets his, in Scream 5, it was weird. It was like, wait, so she's married to an ex-detective, and he's just fine with just letting Sidney go and take on Ghostface by herself, right? But, you could justify, okay, her kids, this, that, and the other, right? He's trying to keep the kids safe. He trusts her. She's a boss, right? She's going to handle Ghostface, right? But, I don't know, it's just, it's a little weird. It's like, at what point do you just go like, hey, no, I got to come with you, right? We'll leave the kids with my parents, or, I have detective friends, so they could stay with them, whatever, right? Like, you're telling me there's nowhere that you could take them that's safe? Especially with Mark Kincaid, you got to imagine he has tie-ins, he has connections, he knows people, right? So to me, if there's no real guarantee that you can continue to bring back Patrick Dempsey, you might have to kill him just to make things make sense. So I think that that's a big point in and of itself. But the word going around is that you're going to have a significant death early on that sets the tone, shows that no one is safe in this film, and it's also expected to have Sidney Prescott kind of be in a similar state that she was in Scream 3, where she's just having these mental breaks. And who can die that would cause that? Like, what? Like, Ghostface coming back, sure, maybe she just looks at it, you could argue her family being attacked could set the standard and set the tone and go, oh, like, I'm just never going to be able to get out of this type thing. But still, like, you'd think she would want to be strong for her family, think she'd want to kind of like, stand tough. If Gail were to die, I don't see that happen. Like, who could die that would actually have that type of impact and significance on Sidney Prescott to where she would have these mental struggles? I don't know anyone else other than her husband or one of her kids. Right? If one of her kids were to meet their end, yeah, I think she'd have the same type of thing. But what's more likely, that they take out one of Sidney's kids or they take out Mark Kincaid? I think it's Mark Kincaid. I don't think it's completely unfathomable that they might do the kid route, but I think it'll probably be Mark Kincaid. And you'll have that dynamic, and now her having to protect her children and having this revenge. Because, again, if Sidney was, or if Gail were to die, I think she'd be once again motivated, right? As you saw with Dewey, but she didn't even have a breakdown with Dewey, at least not that we saw, which again is another thing that frustrates me about Scream 5, and I've talked about heavily that I feel like they really dropped the ball and missed an opportunity in that regard. But I digress, right? Like, to me, it's like we saw her, the effect on her with Dewey, which was, I need to avenge Dewey. I think the same thing would happen with Gale, right? I mean, she's not as close with Gale as she was with Dewey. Dewey was her big brother. Dewey was her love, right? Like, Dewey loved her and cared for her in ways, that she didn't have anyone else in that regard, right? Like, so I just don't see her having this huge emotional impact other than her husband, Mark Kincaid, dying. And if he's going to have a limited role, right, and he's going to be in this film very little, well, guess what? He dies, right? Like, that's a good way to do it, because how else do you make it make sense, right? Like, could you have him maybe in like 10 minutes of the film and it's just like little hits, little doses? Like, maybe it starts the film and it's just like, maybe there's a Ghostface attack and everyone gets out safe and, Mark Kincaid is there. But like, you got to imagine if they are having and trying to navigate and survive Ghostface, Mark Kincaid would be with Sidney every step of the way, or most of the steps, right? Now, you could explain it, I guess, if you wanted to, as like, Mark's going to stay with the kids, Sidney's going to go with Gale type thing, and maybe it's like a Gale and Sidney dynamic, right? And it's Gale and Sidney kind of, going about their business and trying to track down and hunt down Ghostface, so you don't really see Mark Kincaid, right? It's just like, he's in the beginning, maybe you get like a random call here and there. It's just like little hits, little moments, and then maybe he's there at the end type thing, where, maybe he was captured, or, he comes to help and save Sidney or something at the end. Like, sure, you could do something like that, but I feel like that's just, I almost feel like he's better off dying, right? Because at least it's more justifiable. It's just, because again, it's just like, unless they end up having to go into a place where it's like they're in hiding, right? Which could be. No, maybe it's something where Patrick Dempsey or, Mark Kincaid, got to stay with the children in hiding, and that's the route and approach that they take. But I want to see Mark and Sidney's dynamic. They just dropped this huge anchor on us of like, hey, Mark and Sidney are married together and happy and have kids and a family and all that stuff. And then we just never saw him, right? And then you didn't see him in screens. It's just like, can we get something here? Can we get some type of information? Can we get some type of, insight? Can we get a look into their relationship and their dynamic? Is it awkward? Is it, just the perfect marriage? Is it toxic? Is Sidney have her like guards, reservation? Like, there's so many things that it's just so many questions that you want to explore and dive into and at least get a little glimpse. I'm not saying you have to spend the whole movie trying to figure it out and navigate and show it to us, but be nice to kind of get a little peek behind the curtain into their lives and their dynamic, right? And so if you just have like Mark Kincaid, oh, here he is, and then, oh, that's it, right? Like, at least if you, kill him off through Ghostface, yeah, it's still, there's a lot of things you don't get and don't get to see, but at least you kind of can put it in your rear view mirror and just go, all right, well, now we're moving forward type thing, right? I don't know. I just think it's a tough situation to be in. And if this is true and Mark Kincaid isn't really in this movie much, you either have to have an explanation as to why, again, maybe staying with the kids, trying to keep the kids safe, but it's just like, you're okay with just like letting your wife run around and chase Ghostface, and like then she dies, and it's like, now what, right? Like, I get it's a movie, and we all know Sidney's not dying, but in the movie, they don't know that, right? Like, like, so I don't know. It's just I think the easiest way to explain that is you just bye-bye, Mark Kincaid. And you really set the tone and you establish stuff and you catch the audience by surprise and everyone's like, oh my gosh. And I know a lot of people want Sidney to have a happy ending, but how can Sidney have a happy ending if she's going to continue to be in these films? At some point, people got to die. Right? At some point, I mean, this is a horror movie also, right? And historically speaking, usually the final girl dies at some point in the horror franchise. You know, we've had the luxury where that hasn't happened to Sidney, but there's got to be some stakes. There's got to be some, you know, like, and again, it's a horror franchise. Not everything, like if this was a drama or a love story or something like that, then yeah, right? You don't want to see it end in tragedy, but this is a horror franchise. This is a horror movie. You do want to see it end in tragedy. You do want to see it and have these stakes raised, you know, but as always, this is a discussion. That was my opinion. And I'd love to hear yours down in the comments below. Let me know what you think. How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you agree? Do you think like Mark Kincaid, based on this news, if it's true, he's a goner? Do you think, no, like they'll just explain it another way? Do you think that they would actually kill him? Do you think that they won't? Again, I wouldn't put it past them. You know, they were willing to kill Dewey. You know, I don't necessarily think anyone is safe, or at least that's the idea. I mean, granted, you could argue that they retconned and changed everything in Scream 6 because everybody survived in that film. So that was a little frustrating. But again, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. It's me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.